What happened with Georgia against Missouri in the first half? I think that's the question that everyone wants to know. Georgia righted something in the second half. We'll get to that in another edition of Film Don't Lie coming up later. But first, Brent, first half against Missouri, Georgia behind the sticks, battle of field position lost, down on the scoreboard. That's what we're
Turnovers.
investigating here. We're doing this a bit different. Most of the time we've done Film Don't Lie, it's been offense and defense. We're interspersing them because I think it's part of the story.
I agree, and it's turnovers and put them in a good spot, you in a bad spot, and it's a couple of things. One, big plays for them. The entirety of the game, 6 of their plays netted 210 of their 290 something total yards. The other 40 something plays were 85 yards. I mean, so you're talking about 2 yards of play without those big plays. 2 PI penalties, 2 turnovers by Georgia, and I think one of the things that I talked about in the post game that we'll get to in the next video when we look at the fourth quarter, but Todd Monken specifically, when they get behind and things aren't going well, he's shown that what does he go to? He just goes to the drop back game. And that's what you saw in the first half was straight drop back, try to push the ball down the field, putting it all sort of on the quarterback's hands, which for the most part, he played really, really well other than a few throws. The stats didn't necessarily bear that out, but based on what he had to do, played really, really well.
Let's get into the tape of this because that's why people watch what we do. And this starts with a running game situation. And
second play of the game.
Second play of the game. Kenny McIntosh is in there. You'll see I circle both Cedric Van Pran and Xavier Truss. This is blown up from the beginning.
Yeah, and it's one where I went back and looked at the running game, and I sort of categorized it into look at it in 4 areas. One, is it scheme? Is it just, hey, they've got more numbers than you can block. You're running into an area where you shouldn't. You're blocking the wrong guys, things like that. 2, are you just getting whipped? Like at certain times, you just get whipped. And Kirby talked about that after the game. And then 3, sometimes it's the back, but for the most part, often, the other one's just positive. Hey, we block who we're supposed to. You get 5, 6 plus yardage, and you actually have good plays. This one is confusing to me because this is part scheme, part whipped. Because you highlighted the 2 players that you needed to in this play. And the biggest key with me watching this play back is Cedric Van Pran's first step. His first step isn't like a big, huge step left. Like he knows he's getting no help and has to reach that guy. Like he's making that step almost as if he's assuming some form of help from Truss, who's giving him no help. Looks like the Braves just got some runs. But the other thing is, so I'm curious as to how that's supposed to. Truss, if you're going to get to the second level, okay, get the second level. You kind of missed him there. But also, like this is a little bit of a back issue too. This is, you should see from the snap, like pre-snap, if I'm a running back, give a quick look to how the defense is aligned. And know that that's going to be a tough block for your center, and he might just have to push him to his left. And then it's going to be a quick cut right at the gut. Like, as soon as he gets this ball, boom, cut.
You're saying cut there.
Well, just get up the field.
Yeah. Well,
and then some of these, to me, are scheme.
If Truss gets his guy, if Van Pran gets his side, Jones did. Although I'll say Jones should have probably been penalized for about 5 holding penalties in this game. Like he's going to have to watch that. This is one where they kind of lock arms. I don't think this is one of those, but Georgia got lucky in some cases.
What would a lineman would tell you? There's holding on every play.
So the intended lane here is very slim of Like,
well, it's inside
that.
zone. Yeah, and it's when you're running sort of inside zone, the point is always that outside hip of the guard. That's your, if you go back to the snap, like that's their aiming point, and they're looking to bounce off of that. So outside hip of the left guard, you watch him, that's the track he's going.
Right there.
He's just, like I said, to me, this is one where the back has to do a little bit of seeing the alignment. Also, I'm curious as to what was happening there. Should that have been a sort of a double team chip up to the backer versus a, hey, you're getting that guy by yourself type thing?
Let's flip over to Missouri's offense, and I'm going to show mainly the protection that they got, but then even when it broke down, Georgia wasn't able to punish Missouri.
By the way, this is the first time in a while they've had their 4 best pass rushers on the field. That's Beal, Smith, Carter, Michael Williams.
And after 2 seconds, look how clean that pocket still is. And I know it's 4 with 5 blockers. I get that. Breaks down quickly. Nolan Smith, bad angle.
He does a great job of working across the formation because of the stunt that they run. And by the way, he's the only guy right now on their team with double-digit pressures. Like, I've yet to look back through what the first 5 games was a season ago, but I know, like, in the first game, they obviously had 7 sacks in the first game against Clemson last year. They had 7 sacks through 5 games right now. But he takes, like you said, the angle. He goes at the inside hip of the quarterback right here as opposed to the outside hip. Like, he's more sort of forward versus trying to force him back in. Oh, and then that moment of hesitation. And this is one where, like last year, you got no excuse for coming up.
Yeah.
Like, you got a guy in front of you. There's another defender in front of you. There's another defender to make a play. Like, that's not your world. And it's just lose sight of the guy. And it happened twice, by the way. This play and then Starks earlier in the game, they got one against him on the sideline on a broken play scramble.
Having watched some of Auburn versus LSU, this play can be particularly scary because Robbie Ashford against LSU showed some things that I had not seen from Auburn's offense at all.
Well, it looks like he's just running around, watching the highlights of that game. It's like, hey, I'm going to run around and just run around and run around until maybe I find somebody.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Johnny Manziel style game.
Yes, backyard ball.
And he's pretty good at it, is what I'm saying. And if this happened with Missouri, then Robbie Ashford can do this against Georgia too.
Well, and by the way, you think about Kamari Lassiter, knowing coming into the season he's going to get attacked. Now, Ringo's actually been targeted more than him, by one more. But you can tell that when teams when they really want to push down the field, now this one's kind of not necessarily intently there, but the next play they do. The next play is when he got the PI call on Burden on the sideline. And, he leads the team with 3 penalties. He's going to keep seeing a lot of action his way. Now, he's only given up, I think, 9 receptions and 16 targets, but a lot of big plays, 181 yards. Let's
go to the red zone. This is early second quarter, a 3rd down for Missouri, Georgia's defense on the field.
Eye candy. I wrote about this after the game. This is the eye candy that got him.
This is such a beautiful little design where it looks like I'm coming to block you. We're trying to get to the flat and then release and go.
Well, it's one where you're like, hey, Georgia, can we just steal this with all the screen game that they do? I mean, I know they've got to have some layer off of it.
That should be Darnell Washington.
100%. And that should, trying to throw the slip screen to Bowers, and then boom, Darnell goes. But Chris Smith and then puts his eyes in the inside as opposed to out, and it looks like they're in man based upon how they lined up with the single safety.
Yep.
And he just, like I said, the eye candy got him. And that happens. And Missouri runs a lot of jet sweep motions, various split zone action, split zone read action, where you have to be very eye disciplined. The outside zone game makes you be eye disciplined. A couple of the big runs that they had. But again, the touchdown, the play we just showed previously, those are part of the 6 plays. They literally, 22 points on turnovers in 6 plays.
The best way to have stopped this play would just be to get to the quarterback before he's able to make this throw. And Georgia came close. He had to loft it up there, but it was still not quite quick enough. Yep. They knocked him on the ground, but touchdown Missouri.
And Bear got a lot of those 3rd down pass rush reps. He was in there on that play as well. And I don't think he had a pressure in the game. And there was a couple times, by the way, that he got double teamed. Like they've noticed him enough on film, especially once Jalen Carter was out of the game, that Bear was getting double teamed.
So some of the eye candy stuff, some of the line of scrimmage getting beat. Let's flip it back over and watch Georgia's offense here.
I hate this design. This is personal pet peeve, and I'll show you why.
All right, so this is McConkey in motion, right?
Yep. Pull and lead.
So this is Devin Willock in here at right guard. So this is not Tate Ratledge at that position. He's having to get to this inside linebacker, and then you have Jones trying to set
Jones pulling around there, and then Van Pran's kind of pulling around, ideally getting the guy that you're pointing at 10. And this is just tough. This is tough for these guys to make this block. Now, by the way, this has actually been a big play occasionally for them in the past. Like if you remember last year against Kentucky, Kendall Milton took one like 30. It was on this exact play. But I hate the design because there's nothing telling those linebackers that the ball is going anywhere but to their right. Like they are instantly working to the outside. And those guys with a head of steam against your linemen, they're just more unless your linemen make a perfect step, those guys are just faster. And
if you look at their first step, it's instantly to the right as the play begins. That's a really good point.
Like I would love to see this be like give some inside zone to the right where Edwards takes 2 steps towards his right, the defense's left, to at least get those linebackers to take 1 half count step left. So because guess what? Darnell's going to hold the block. It's not like you got to get out there quick so you can get out because of Darnell's block. He's going to 9 times out of 10 dominate that block.
He's the best blocker on the team, and it's not very close.
And he's one of the best in college football, and if not the best in college football. But give those guys a chance to get out there, especially when you're going into the short side of the field.
There's Washington doing his work right here.
Yeah, and that's to me that's the issue with the play. And this is where to me I chalk this up to scheme, because like you've got guys blocked, but those from a linebacker, look at those guys instantaneously, 2 step, there's filling and working to the right, and that's where you get running game issues.
I mean, I guess the only other option is if Stetson keeps it on like a boot, but then, nothing except 2 dudes right here waiting for him.
Well, and think about motion. So we saw Ladd in motion. It's one thing that's rarely a part of the Todd Monken offense. Motion, if you watch it consistently, watch every sort of little detail of their offense. Motion for him and his offense is to set up things in the passing game. Motion is rarely, like we showed, I think it was the Bowers touchdown against South Carolina on a play action. Like they got some jet sweep action, but it was for the passing game. Like motion rarely for them is used for eye candy in the running game, and I'd like to see more of that.
Let's get to 3rd and 9 here. Georgia down 13-0, middle of the second quarter. And this is I put this
looks
in
familiar,
here,
right?
Yeah, this is
familiar.
This is one of the beautiful. Well, we saw this last week, right?
Exactly. Play the game.
But Don Blaylock going and making a catch because he's never dropped one in his career, and he made 2 clutch catches. We'll show the other in the second half. This was big for Georgia. I put this in here mainly situationally. I don't think there's a lot to show other than he ran a good route. Georgia actually had good protection on this play. And he makes a good catch, and Stetson threw it up there for him. But if Georgia has to punt here, and Missouri gets the ball 13-0, gets to either milk the clock or even go down and score again, this gets nasty early without this play.
Yes, and by the way, he does and has a knack for coming back to the football and making catches. Like Marcus Rosemary-Jackson, watch him. Watch this guy and how he comes back to the football, because I think that's a lot of where Rosemary-Jackson gets himself in a little bit of trouble sometimes, even A.D. Mitchell, not coming back to the football as well as Blaylock does, and especially given the situational part. And this is the other piece with this. This is literally the exact – I think I need to go back and look. I can't remember the formation exactly, but I think it's almost the exact formation. as the play we saw a week ago that we sort of did our play of the game on a third similar situation, 3rd and 9. So do offensive coordinators save stuff? No. Like they might save a trick play that they've been using. They might evolve and gradually put a wrinkle in after something's been successful. But for the most part, they have their playbook and they're going to dive into it. And when things get tough, what are they going to do? Hey, had this success a week ago. I'm going to star this or, highlight it, whatever, that I'm coming to this in a situation that we need it.
3rd and 10 for the Dogs here.
This play and I think 3 others were the absolute most concerning thing in this game for me. Because when I look at games, we project as much moving forward, right? We try to look and see how is this going to impact moving forward. And what do you have on this play? One, you got no Brock on the field, no AD Mitchell. So technically, 2 of your 3, 2 of your 4 best receivers are not on the field, and they are bringing the house. This is cover 0, straight man, no safety help. We're bringing the house. We're going to get to you before you beat us. You've got 5 guys to block 6 or 6 to block 6, basically.
You've got 6 to block 7.
7.
That's the issue.
Yeah. And that's like they're saying, hey, we're going to cover your receivers. Can you win? And by the way, in those 4 scenarios, I think it's 4 plays. In those 4 scenarios, Georgia was 0 for 4. They didn't win. The ball is either pressured or the ball was incomplete. The only successful play out of all these plays where Missouri went cover 0 and said, I don't care, I'm bringing the house, was the one that Dylan Bell got the defensive holding call on him. Now, Kyrus was wide open in the middle of the field, but the pressure got the Stetson to where he had to release the ball, and Bell got the holding call or interference, something like that, against him. But this is one where Stetson's putting the ball to a spot. And, hey, Rosemary Jackson, it's a tough play. This is a tough catch. Go make it. I'm sure that's what McClendon's telling him. Brian McClendon's telling him. Great route. He's like, just go make the play. I know it's tough, but just go make it.
The other thing to me, if there's 7 here and you see the blitz coming, if I'm Darnell, have the agency to kind of cut this off short and bail your quarterback out here. I know you have to have that communication, but you're not going to have time for Darnell Washington to get 10 yards down the field here.
Yes, and I also I would love to know just pre-snap call versus what Stetson sees, because if you look at pre-snap, right? Let me go a little further when the other guy walks up to the edge. All right, now he's walking down. Now it's that look, and look at the corner at the top of the screen. Look at his leverage. He's playing inside leverage with his inside foot forward on about the 24-yard line or so, right there. Now, what's the possibilities of things that can happen here with the defense? They can, show all this and bring 5 and 2 of those guys standing up, drop back. Quite possible. But given the situation, I wonder why they didn't work a slant here. Mm-hmm. And I realize that that's short of the sticks, but given the leverage and given that apparent that the house is coming, you might get maybe one guy dropping back into your window, but it'd be tough for them to drop back and then also slide into your throwing window unless it's, just perfectly played by the defense. But I would love to see because it's just easy for the corner to play this with the leverage that he has.
I also wonder, would you not have some kind of alternate version where this is just a go and throw to a spot down here and see if you get the PI?
Possibly.
Now we're just
pontificating. It's a tough play and just didn't make it. The ball was in a catchable spot, just didn't make the play.
All right, let's get the 2 more plays quickly.
I will say those are the ones that I'm going to address this week in X's and Foes, those plays.
Defensively here, this is bad angles again. One, we've given Jamon Dumas-Johnson a ton of praise. He gets destroyed on this play. Happens with his size with Lyman. I mean, I'm not discounting him, but because of that, and then the poor angle that Christopher Smith takes, that's why this is a big play.
Yes, and this is what outside zone and the outside zone game. This is Denver Broncos with Shanahan. This is the Shanahan-McVay system. It's get you going, flowing one way, and our back puts his foot in the ground and gets quick north-south because you've over-pursued. And unfortunately, Smile Munden takes himself out of the play because of a call they had. He kind of came from the edge at the spot. And like you said, Dumas Johnson, Chris Smith, they sort of overplay the outside, and the back just does a phenomenal job of putting his foot in his ground and getting north-south. This is one to me where you have to trust your edge. Like Michael Williams is winning right there. Mm-hmm. Like he's winning on the edge. Trust your edge. I know you got to play the alley if you're Smith. I know you got to be where you're supposed to be if you're Dumas Johnson. The other part, by the way, 4-point play. Malachi Starks with a 4-point play.
Yeah, let's acknowledge where Starks was when he recognizes, all right, here we go. He's here. Back is here. And he's changing directions. That's just really impressive.
Yep. It's just go be an athlete. And catch him.
I'll say, the guy that I thought was the fastest on the team, I know he came from further away, Malachi Starks is beating Keely Ringo here step for step. Now, Ringo may not be going full force on this play because he thinks he can't get there.
And, man, just great job getting him down. Because if he tries to, too much punch the ball out more, the guy falls and he falls in the end zone.
Just before halftime, this is one that you just want to burn, right? Burn this play.
I mean, I know I've heard Coach talk about it on the Watch Along show. But hey, let's move the pocket a little bit. Let's move the pocket a little bit. But maybe this is why they don't move the pocket. Because if you pause it right there, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in black jerseys behind all the white jerseys. No chance. Now, the interesting part about this is, again, this is a communication thing to me. Because if you go back to the snap, everybody's accounted for, except for the guy who's furthest from the ball, which is he's down here standing up to the outside of Bowers. Right there, stop right there. If you know the back is part of the protection, he's got that furthest outside guy who's on the 10-yard line right there. So Broderick Jones has the guy on his inside shoulder. Truss has the guy on his inside shoulder. Everybody's sort of fanning backwards, given that you have a back as your lead guy, I would think. But they kind of almost try to play it to where everybody's working more forward, and then it becomes jailbreak behind everybody. So maybe this is why they don't move the pocket.
I don't like rolling out to the left or across your body anyway.
I remember. I think I may have heard it on the post game show. I tend to disagree, and because some QBs, that's their comfort zone. Like I've coached numerous kids and other sort of high school kids who that's their comfort zone is going left because it forces them to get their front shoulder turn to make the throw. Versus throwing right or running to the right, a lot of times their mechanics oftentimes kind of get away from themselves. The ball sails. But some kids throw better going right. So if he's moving left, I think it's more of a saying, hey, I'm more comfortable moving left and moving to my left.
10-second recap because we need to get on our next video here. What went wrong for Georgia in the first half?
Mistakes. Self-inflicted mistakes, mental, hang on the ball. Period.
There you go. Hey, thanks for watching Film Don't Lie. We're going to start our new video here in about 2 minutes. So this is going to be the things that changed for Georgia in a fourth quarter that helped them win the game. So a bit more of a positive tone here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in just a second.